Thank you all very much, Mayor Davis, council men and women. Who else is here?
This is Susan Hyde. She's the city clerk.
Nice to meet you.
Marie Garrett
Hey, Marie.
and Bill O'Reilly.
Great. Nice to meet you. My name's Josh
City
Hirsch.
attorney, city manager.
Great. I haven't had a chance to meet. My name's Josh Hirsch. I'm with Jones Lang LaSalle. This is my partner Brandon Moss and David Demarest. We want to thank you guys for the opportunity to come in here and present our services. I'm a citizen of Brookhaven. I've been supportive of the city formation, and very proud of what we're doing here, and hope to be a good partner going forward. So we thought we'd start. We have a lot of different ways we can go here, and we're going to cover some different topics. We're going to start with just an overview of who we are as a firm, and then we'll jump around to some different things. But we're happy to stop at any time if you guys have questions or want to take this in a different direction.
If you'll just check on your first page there, Jones Lang LaSalle is a global corporate real estate services firm. We're $3.8 billion in revenue. This past year, we're the only S&P rated real estate services firm in the world. What does that mean to you? It means that our Atlanta office, which is one of our hubs in the U.S., has all the full breadth of resources of our firm. We're the only firm you're talking to that has the full suite of services available to you. The ones that are most applicable to you all in your current requirement are going to be incentives negotiations, obviously the transaction negotiation, and project management. And those services are available in a bundled fashion. They're also available a la carte, so to speak.
If you go to the next page, I think this is the most unique differentiator for Jones Lang LaSalle in the context of this discussion. We represent, how many companies? I think over 15 companies, making up close to, call it 3,800, 4,000 jobs in the city of Brookhaven. We've been doing business within the boundaries of Brookhaven, obviously way before the city was formed, but there's a lot of reasons why our clients have chosen to office here. And the point of showing this chart to you is to say that we're very familiar with the benefits of being here, and that as the government takes shape and as you get to know some of the leaders of the larger businesses around town, you'll obviously have access to them because they're going to want to talk to you, but we can help facilitate those discussions in a very quick and meaningful way. And as companies are evaluating what they do as the leases come up over time, they want to make sure that they're getting the attention of the government, and they look to their advisors to make those conversations happen. And as we represent and get to know you, and as we represent and know them, we're a good conduit for you guys. And it's really between AT&T, Atlantic Park, some of the larger companies at Perimeter Summit, the Corporate Square, where we've done some very big work, really north to south. We've been involved in some very extensive real estate projects.
And that really points to it's really a function of our overall Atlanta market share, which is greater than any other firm. So it's not like all the companies we represent are coming to Brookhaven, but it's a cross-section of our overall Atlanta market share.
And at the bottom of the page, our particular team, the three of us in front of you, are currently representing 3 requirements in the city of Atlanta, who are talking to different municipalities about the opportunities to office there. They want to understand what the incentives are. It's about 500 jobs total. So we'll get into the incentives part of this discussion, but we want to make sure that the city's competitive when they go to pitch for that kind of business.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'll ask later.
Okay. As a company, like Dave mentioned, we have lots of different groups, and one of them in particular, our public institutions group, has done a lot of work representing municipalities. We are currently developing, and the master or the general contractor and developer for the new city hall for the city of Alpharetta. We're doing all of the work up there for them. We've represented the city of Roswell in some of their efforts over the last couple of years. We've done work for Dahlonega, state of Georgia, city of Atlanta, Fulton County. So this has been this is not our first time working with governments. We're very in tune to what the needs are of the different types of counties and cities, so on and so forth. As we go to the next page, this is an example of some of the larger projects that we've worked on throughout the state of Georgia, and anywhere from 90,000 square feet to 500,000 square feet, from detention centers to justice centers and courthouses. As you all begin to make decisions, whether it's this particular decision, which may be an interim step before there's a larger city hall done over time, and that's an interesting discussion for us to have, we can help from the design and the development to the actual construction of those facilities.
And this speaks to project management you see on the title of the page. So this would also help in the evaluation of a leased option. I know that there'll be many lease options out there, and evaluating what it would cost to go in a particular building, and then implementing that construction and helping you move into the space.
If you skip ahead 2 pages, I want to have Brandon talk for a second about economic incentives.
Yeah, we think this is a very important part of our business in Atlanta. We think it's a very important part of the potential partnership that we could have with you all. So we have a large incentives practice group that's independent from the folks that are here at the table today. And what they do is they represent, large U.S. typical companies or potentially companies that are coming in international, and they're representing them and looking at different states, different municipalities. We've got a very good relationship with that group, and we'd like to integrate you all in with that group as well, so Brookhaven becomes a top of mind discussion point. Again, it's a whole set of companies that we didn't have on that front page earlier that we think we can introduce you to and expose you to, and also help you guys understand what other municipalities and other cities are offering to these tenants. So
Offer some help in developing your own incentives program.
Yeah, that's actually what they do. So they work on both sides. They work with user groups. They also work with government. So, Dunwoody has some robust incentive package out there that they're using to attract the state farms of the world. Sandy Springs, it's the same thing. Roswell actually, at a breakfast meeting we had last week, the mayor of Roswell stood up and said that for the old UPS operations center up there, they were able to get what wasn't really a blighted area designated as an opportunity zone, and he said that was the reason why they were able to attract a couple thousand GM jobs that came there recently. So one thing that's really interesting, if you look on the next page, is our group will write and help, they'll work with you to help write legislation to find blighted areas that you could designate as opportunity zones.
Blighted in quotation marks.
We got some real ones though.
Right, so
well, like you heard from Mayor Wood about, even the site that they had up in Roswell was, wouldn't have been
a good neighborhood.
Yeah,
they were still able to.
They were able to win that 1,000 jobs.
So you think about Buford Highway or some places that we'd like to see some redevelopment at, and that can really be jewels in the city over time. If you're able to say the certain parts of the commercial real estate in Buford Highway is in an opportunity zone or qualifies for credits, when you start marketing to companies to come into town, it all of a sudden makes the real estate cost anywhere from 25 to 40% less expensive per employee. And by working with the state governments that we know and the local governments that we hope to get to know, we're able to make these conversations happen and start to get that legislation written. One thing which we've done to understand what your needs are, and this will be part of the discussion that we hope to have right after this, is how much space do you need? We've talked to the city managers of Dunwoody, Johns Creek, Milton, Peachtree Corners, and Sandy Springs, and we wanted to understand how much space they had when they started as a city, sort of in a temporary environment like this, and then over time, how much space did they grow into based on both their city hall and then their police and court functions. So we looked at the amount of constituents that you all have, and it seems like you're somewhere in the neighborhood of Dunwoody and Milton in terms of size. So in some of the discussions we've had internally for both functions together, whether they're for both functions, whether they're together or separate, it's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 30,000 square feet. But you can tell from this chart here who's done what, and that might be an interesting benchmark.
Another interesting benchmark would be your size of your space as a proportion to the population. And we're actually in the middle of scrubbing that information. We didn't have it for this, but that'd be an interesting sort of checks and balances.
And then the last page of the presentation, I don't think any real estate presentation would be complete without a discussion of physical office space. This is an interesting discussion because we're confined to a very certain boundary here in Brookhaven. So when I sat and worked with the Governor's Commission with the other team who was in here and with Jed Beardsley, we identified the buildings that will likely work for this either combined or dual location that you guys will have after this particular lease is up. And the point of us showing you the slide is that gathering the real estate information is largely a commodity. We want to be a partner to the city. We want you guys to understand that after this deal is done, our goal is to work with you on driving business here, on making sure that you're competitive, on educating our clients, on working with the different types of tenants around Atlanta who may consider Brookhaven. So finding the space is an exercise that we do better than anyone, but we didn't want to make it the focus of our presentation because as a growing city, you want to make sure that you have the right partner.
Yeah, I mean, and to Josh's point, an example of that is the Buckhead Coalition came to us, Jones Lang LaSalle, several months back and asked us to be a partner in helping promote Buckhead, the city of Buckhead. And so we've worked with them. We actually have a joint marketing program that we co-branded with them. We provide all the research. We provided the marketing materials. We worked on behalf and with the coalition to have this, and we're very involved with them. We'd like to do the same kind of things with you all. Help you produce those incentive materials.
What is this?
This is something we did with the Buckhead Coalition. Let me show you a couple examples.
Yeah, this is very interesting when you open it up.
This is their marketing piece for trying to create a city of Brookhaven? I mean,
No, it's
city of
for
Buckhead?
Buckhead. This
This
is
is for the
just
Buckhead Coalition, not for us,
They're
not
not a
for,
city.
yeah,
Right.
just kind of a marketing piece for Buckhead.
For attracting business to Buckhead, but when you open it up, we've detailed all of the buildings in Buckhead and where there's potential blocks of space and vacancies, so we can do the same study for you all, so people are able to get this in their hands and say, well, you know, there's some big blocks at Perimeter Summit, or there's a building empty at Corporate
What
Square.
does this cost the city to do something like this? What does it cost?
We did that for them without, you know, we used our marketing team, we used our resources.
Yeah,
I think the answer is nothing.
Cost
That's the right answer, right there.
Cost of printing is
Short
really,
and sweet. So thank you very much for hearing about Jones Lang LaSalle. We're happy to take some questions.
It's a nice piece. May I keep this?
yeah, absolutely.
That's the very beginning. Where was it? Hold on.
Well, you're looking for that. On your list of buildings, this is just a snapshot today, right? Of
Correct.
what- Today, but obviously, real estate is a market in flux, and other opportunities might emerge. And this is your business.
Absolutely, and snapshot is the right word for it. So once you retain a firm, hopefully us, we'll dig very deep. And there could be opportunities that aren't necessarily readily evident by virtue of the service providers that show us, that provide the information. So we'll do that. I mean, we've talked to you all about a couple of specific opportunities that aren't necessarily self-evident, so to speak. But you know, what's interesting about you all is that you have office space on the two edges of town, and you'd like to be
Right in the center.
you know, right in the center of town. And so it's going to be a challenge, and if we can find the right solution, both short and long term, you know, it's not just purely straightforward. So there is some work to be done there.
And, you know, I don't know that we have the answer to this, but, I mean, I envision that this next move is probably not necessarily a permanent move, but I'm not sure what the time frame would be.
5 to 7, something like that?
Or 1 to 3, I mean.
Could be, depends on how things quickly, how much our economic development team can get things going in Brookhaven and with things like all we're talking about. That's one thing I'm most interested about is that you're focusing less on the city hall stuff, which I think is kind of old hat for any, I mean, that's kind of any firm can kind of.
Right.
Right.
You're focusing on the economic development portion, which is extremely important to me. And I know Bates is appointed a committee for economic development. And why do you feel, I mean, is that kind of what's in your wheelhouse too, is not just leasing space or finding tenants or, you know, finding, is economic development?
Atlanta is, sorry,
No, go ahead.
you can weigh in. First of all, Atlanta is a regional marketing hub for our firm. So we have an outsized level of resources from a marketing perspective. And we make those resources available to our clients. And so, and yes, to the extent economic development aids our long-term business, we're absolutely in that business.
But, you know, we're also seeing that companies who, as most of who represent the companies and really all of our clients, don't want to just get a deal that's a little bit off the sticker price on the street. They want to understand, you know, why they're making the decisions. You know, what is it about locating in Dunwoody that's been attractive for so many technology companies recently, or what is it about, you know, Roswell or Alpharetta where, you know, there's so much affordable cost of living, and that's where there's a big technology home, so, or technology hub. So we want to make sure that people start to understand that Brookhaven is on the map now, and that there are intangibles to locating here and educate our clients on what those are, because otherwise, like you said, all you're doing is just finding space, and you're not adding much value.
It's our job to have those answers. That's what our clients are asking us every day. So you all become a client of ours, and then we help you channel those answers and then turn it back around to the market.
How many employees do y'all have total?
In Atlanta, we have like 400.
And then, all right, and then worldwide?
30,
Big number.
40,
38,000?
45,000.
45 now?
Worldwide, so.
Yeah, I think
Yes,
one of
we're
the-
big, but real estate is local, and we don't like to, you know, look, you're.
Well, sometimes, we're trying to, we don't want to be in a situation with some vendors or companies where they're just too big, but I think in a situation like this, I think the bigger you are, the more access to resources you have, you can kind of, and with the nature of the, like you said, real estate is local, so you're going to get that.
Yeah.
It's just,
Well, and I grew up in Atlanta. I went to Marist High School. I'm on the Marist Master Plan Development Committee right now, so if you don't hire us, y'all are going to be seeing me anyway as a result
Josh was in
of all
District
that
4.
stuff.
I'm in District 4.
And I can tell you that they're excited about the fact that they didn't get too far down the road with DeKalb County, and that they're now going to have the opportunity to work with you all.
Father Harhager
Yeah.
was here when we had our open house for the
Brother
builders
John.
and developers.
Yeah.
I have a quick question about referring to what Jay was talking about, economic development. What experience do you all have working with development authorities of cities or municipal organizations, and how could you benefit our development authority for the City of Brookhaven once we have one?
Well, and that's the line we were talking about with our incentives group. So some of these, the incentives groups works with large corporations that are looking at different states, and they negotiate incentives with the cities. Well, some of these cities, some of the new cities, and in Fulton County, for example, have turned around and say, hey, can you come help us do a better job of promoting what we're doing and designing incentives for companies that may be coming in here. So those folks are available, and I think they welcome the opportunity to come in and talk.
So you guys come in, and we'll introduce all those folks to you, and this is a partnership. Not just the three of us. We'll help you analyze and figure out the space, the resources of the company there to really help with all these other elements that we think are the big differentiator.
what is the, and I was at that breakfast, what was and I spoke to someone else at your firm, I think it was a vice president, I'm not sure, about, you have a quarterly report that you'll offer to your clients that, what's the latest in?
Yeah. We do those JMAX for really specific to we could even tailor one to Brookhaven. I mean, this is an example, I think, what you're speaking about, which will kind of give you an example again for some keeping Kinkos in business. But, I mean, this is an example of Atlanta, Midtown, Buckhead, and downtown.
So
So
not just Buckhead.
we do these for.
That's an annual deal, and then we have sub-market reports that do come out quarterly, for each of the sub-markets.
Okay.
Buckhead being one of them, part of y'all would be defined from an office space perspective as Buckhead. The
Part
stuff
would be
over by
perimeters.
Central Perimeter would be defined as the Central Perimeter market. So when you're talking about regional real estate markets, we don't break it down by city, we break it down by office sub-markets that are defined a long time ago.
And you all are involved with Perimeter Summit?
We have a lot of tenants that we represent that are there. So we represent Altisource Aquin that's there, Regis that is there.
Yeah, so we don't represent owners, but we represent the tenants
The
that
tenants.
lease the space.
That's included on the list in that second page of companies who have substantial amounts of employees in
How
Brookhaven.
did Giordano?
Well, as we look at where our growth potentially is, I mean, that's one of the big,
Sure.
that and Buford Highway and maybe a little
Yeah.
bit on
That's right.
Peachtree. But
Yep, that's
right.
Perimeter Summit's really where the growth is
Mhm.
down the road.
Marie?
Right, just a follow-up on what Rebecca was talking about regarding leasing space, if this is just an interim move for us until we get to the permanent location. One of the things that I'm interested in for the mayor and council as they take this next step in identifying their next move is I'm looking for a firm, brokerage firm to the mayor and council that can be nimble with them. The rush will be to find them a space. We've got a certain time frame in which we have to act, and we need to be working now to locate that space. But what I'd like for the mayor and council, especially when we get into tenant representation, of course, the city attorney is going to be involved in all those contracts, but there has to be the ability for them to be able to respond when a good deal becomes available. They may get into a lease arrangement for 18 months, but there's got to be flexibility so that they can get out and move on if property becomes available. Because I think as the city evolves, and especially over this first year, there'll be more definitive moves and understanding as, is it best to have public safety as part of a complex with City Hall and some open space and those kind of opportunities where it's almost like a one-stop shop for the community, and also a major focal point as part of recruitment and a tool when we talk about economic development. We have a city center. So what do you do when you get the mayor to finally sign that lease for City Hall? What are you guys going to be doing in the interim? Do you go away, or are you going to be in touch with us? I mean, how?
Talking about between the first solution and the second solution?
Right, I mean, what, do you go dark for a while? I mean, I'm just having
I
another
think we're gonna
relationship.
be talking to you guys a lot, because I do think this, what we're talking about outside of finding the space, I think there's going to be a lot of connectivity between the city and our firm. That's a big part of what we believe in today, is that we want to establish that. We obviously have that with other cities, as you've seen. And, you know, J-Max, you were on the panel there with the other mayors that know as well, because that's important to us, that we're in the community and that we have those kind of relationships. And you guys are very important.
Can you put us on more panels?
We'll do it. We'll do it.
That was a good.
That was a lot
You
of
were
fun.
great.
But to your point, I think a lot of brokers miss that the lease transaction is not just about what you're paying for the lease. It's about all the non-economic factors as well. And it's about having a long-term lease that allows you flexibility so that you're able to react to those types of
Exactly.
those types of
And, you know,
opportunities.
the market is turning
That's
now.
right.
There's going to be a lot of other good deals out there, and
Right.
I would not want them to be strapped
That's
to
right.
a lease agreement. And of course, the attorney's going to help make sure that doesn't happen, but that they can respond
Right.
when an opportunity presents itself, and they can move quickly and seize the moment. So that's why, to me, for them, the relationship has to be ongoing. It can't just be, here's your space and we get you moved in and aren't we all happy? And then you don't contact us until we say, well, now we're ready for the next move. I think
Well,
we've lost time then.
Yeah, there are 200 to 250 business points in any major office lease document. And if you guys are going to lease 20,000 feet, that's a major office lease. We've all been negotiating leases collectively for over 50 years. We're as good as an attorney, I'm not supposed to say that, but we're not attorneys and we don't practice law, but we partner with our clients' counsel and negotiate very aggressively on your behalf to create as flexible of a document as you can achieve. And that includes, at the most basic level, options to terminate the lease at various points during the lease term so that you can take advantage of an opportunity that might present itself.
Well, and I guess my point is, out of all of that is, for the best interest of the mayor and council, that when the space is identified and the lease is signed, the work is not done. It's still looking for other space, because this is another temporary move.
And that's part of the integration of the economic development piece of Jones Lang LaSalle, is that we're always talking, and that if we talk to a user who may be the right user to kick off the city center, maybe it's somebody who wants to bring 300-400 jobs to the area, and you say, this is why we need to go talk to MARTA, and this is why we need to go talk to the developers who are looking at Apple Valley, and this could be the thing that changes the city center. We need to be at the table and maybe accelerate the decision to get out of the temporary space.
What would you see as your time frame as we move towards trying to be out of this space at the end of the year?
I think you need to start.
You need to start,
Yeah.
yesterday.
When do we need to sign a lease on a new place?
I would work backwards for 6 months. So I think the process is going to take you 6 to 8 months to get done from the time you sign a lease and go forward. So call it end of the spring. You probably need to have a lease signed. In order
You
to
probably have a
depends on
little more time than that, but not much. I mean, call it mid-year.
June, July?
I mean, that's the same thing, but maybe you could slide it for 30 days or so.
Part of it
Early
depends.
third
Part of it
quarter,
depends
maybe.
on what you're building.
Yeah.
Because if it's a holding cell and a more complex police station, then that's going to require some more construction and permitting.
Correct.
I mean, part of the upfront process would give you some time frame associated with each of these potential options, because they're all going to be different. Some are going to take less time to get into, others are going to take more. And so that'll be part of the front end strategy, is to kind of back into the timeline and see what would work and what may not work.
Well, I think a much more immediate need is probably that 6 months from now or 5 months from now, maybe even 4 months from now, we need a police
Right.
station.
Well, that's exactly parallel,
So-
absolutely.
You won't be building it to those specs.
No.
They won't be holding cells.
No.
Yeah.
No.
You'll be outsourcing that for the temporary.
To our good county.
You
That
can't
goes straight to the county?
They'll go straight to the county, we'll haul them back and forth.
Got it.
For our court, we might eventually need a little holding area, but
You don't want to get into those, there's a whole different category of where you have to go when you start
Yeah.
building like that. We probably just it's cheaper to put them in a chain and let them sit on the front.
or just let them stay in the van. Be a little van outside.
We've done that before too. If I could ask you one question.
Sure, absolutely.
You were talking about the legislation you're talking about, are you just talking about just going ahead and get are you all talking about trying to change legislation in terms of redevelopment?
No, it was more in terms of designation, so
But
identifying
effectively getting that
areas.
opportunity zone expanded.
That's right.
The legislation is there, and it's $3,500 a job, and it's a huge deal for these companies. I mean, it's a big deal. And it is, those opportunity zones, companies are locating in these areas that have, now the trick is to have some quality real estate that a company can move into, and so that's the real.
Could you
trick.
speak to that a little bit? Because, well, I don't believe this year they might want to go to doing a redevelopment authority.
Right.
Probably by next year, there's going to be a real thoughtful process on it. Could you speak to what your experiences is with redevelopment authorities rather than development authorities?
We can speak at a very high level. Our incentives group could obviously come in here and speak to you in great detail, but
And we want to introduce you to Amy Gerber, who's not here tonight. She couldn't be here tonight, and we are going to think about bringing her if she was available, but she wasn't. But we'd set up a meeting with you all, and she talked that backwards and forwards. She's done it before, and can help.
But the bottom line is there's been, sorry to interrupt you, there's we as a company have helped some of these municipalities get these opportunity zones expanded. Not us, but other folks in our company. And for example, I think the stuff over on Beaufort Highway, the office space, Corporate Square, what's the stuff south of North Druid, right there, the big stuff, Druid Chase and some of those, that feels pretty good for a potential designation as an opportunity zone. Now, there's not a whole lot of office space there available. Days End building is empty, right?
Druid Point, yeah.
Druid Point, that could be an opportunity.
Well, we tentatively are looking to schedule an economic summit, development summit here for the city sometime in March that we'd love to have y'all present that type of information, both from a development authority standpoint and redevelopment authority. They both
We'd
have a lot
welcome
of
an
interest.
opportunity
And
to do that.
as part of that, we would present what everyone else is doing with Dunwoody, Sandy Springs, Roswell, what they're all doing, so you have an idea of what it takes to be competitive.
So
Great.
Dunwoody just got Crystal.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
They've
State Farm,
been on a
Crystal.
roll.
Michael Starling's doing a great job.
Good job.
All right, well, thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for the